Well, good day everybody. Dr. Tim Turlip here. Welcome to your 3 Minutes to Vitality. And today we're going to talk about something that's a little bit interesting and a little bit different for most people, and it's something called IGF-1. The acronym that stands for Insulin-like Growth Factor 1. A fancy name for it is also called somatomedin C. Okay. Right, so it's IGF-1. Why is this important? Well, it's actually associated with a hormone in our bodies called growth hormone. It's really, really critical in the womb and during development. And you know, when we all go through that growth spurt when we're teenagers and all the secondary sex characteristics come up and, you know, everybody goes from this size to this size in a short period of time. Well, that's all mediated or controlled by this thing called IGF-1. Really important for cell growth. It's also really critical as we get older that the levels of IGF-1 go down. So it's actually with longevity, with centenarians, people who live to 100 and beyond, but we see that there's a lower level of IGF-1 as we age. So it's kind of normal as we develop, and then it naturally goes down. And for people who age and don't want to get Alzheimer's and cancers and cardiovascular disease or die from any cause, lower levels of IGF-1 in aging actually help us to do much, much better. So what happens with it, the big deal with it? Well, higher levels of IGF-1 during our lifetimes is associated, predominantly we want to hit on cancer. So it can be with prostate cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, you name it. Most of the cancers have been able to see that there are elevated levels of IGF-1 that are associated with those cancers. Sometimes the cancer cells themselves, the tumors, are actually producing more IGF-1 and are more receptive. They have little sites that are receptive to this as well. And IGF-1, remember, is responsible for spurring growth of cells. So while you might have something that happens in our cells that normally might not develop into a tumor or a cancer or something horrible, when we have IGF-1 circulating at higher levels in our bodies, it actually will stimulate the development of those cells and spur the growth of that problem. Not good. Right, so how does this work? Well, how do we get more of it? Well, the research is showing us that in America, where we have elevated levels of animal proteins, it actually is the biggest contributing factor to that. So how do you lower IGF-1? Simplest answer is lowering the consumption of animal-based proteins, because we're all eating so much of this stuff, even with milk, because there's a dairy protein called casein. With elevated amounts of that as well, we can see significant increases in IGF-1. Kind of interesting, even for people who are vegetarian, who actually consume a lot of soy or isolated soy proteins. Even those people want to get muscle bulk and all that kind of stuff. Well, you have the soy proteins or the whey proteins, really significantly increases IGF-1 and increases risk of all-cause mortality, cancers, cardiovascular disease, and aging itself of the cells. So again, the takeaway from all of this is just lowering the levels of meat products that we eat. From dairy, fish, chicken, pork, red meat, if it has the protein from a flesh-based source, they all contribute to this. Doesn't mean you have to become vegetarian, but we're all consuming so many of our calories coming from plant-based, or animal protein sources, that it's actually causing huge detriment. One of the reasons why we haven't been able to win the war on cancer. Kind of an interesting topic. So that's really it for this thing called IGF-1 for today's chat. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much for watching.